They say the gods test a woman not with fire, but with the emptiness of her womb. From the hills of Aguba Kingdom to the farmlands by the Uli River, whispers travelled. Why hasn't the queen conceived? Elders pressed, the land sighed, and though the king stood by her side, the drums of pressure began to beat louder. It was then, in her deepest fear, that she made the decision that would change everything. The drums of Aguba Kingdom were silent that evening, as though the land itself held its breath. From the highest tower of the royal palace, Queen Adana stood, her hands clasped gently before her, staring beyond the horizon where the sun dipped behind the sacred hills of Umunji. She was beautiful, grace woven into flesh, kindness carved into every gesture. The people adored her. The maidens admired her softness. The elders praised her dignity. But love, beauty, and grace could not shield her from the one shadow that trailed her every step: childlessness. Inside the palace courtyard, the voices of the elders murmured like distant thunder. They had gathered again, seated on carved stools, their beards heavy with age and tradition, their walking sticks pressed firmly into the earth as they exchanged uneasy glances. At the centre sat King Umueze, Adanna's husband, regal and calm, though his eyes betrayed an unspoken burden. "We cannot delay destiny," Elder Nwakanwa began, his deep voice cracking the stillness. "A king without an heir is like a drum without skin, quiet and useless." "The land needs a son," another elder added coldly. "The throne must not fall empty. A stranger must not inherit Ogoba." King Umueze clenched his jaw. "I have a wife," he replied firmly. "A good woman, a queen of virtue." But the elders were relentless. "A tree that bears no fruit is cut, not because it is evil, but because the land must be fed." The king rose, his wrath simmering. "Enough! My wife is not a tree." His voice shook through the courtyard like a war gong, and the elders fell silent, but only in speech, not in judgment. From the shadows, Queen Adana had heard it all. Yet she did not cry. No tears left her eyes, though her heart trembled like a leaf in storm wind. For years she had carried her silence like a pot on her head, steady, careful, never letting it fall. She attended every naming ceremony, danced at every childbirth feast, offered gifts to mothers with newborns, but her womb remained as empty as the king's ancestral cradle. At night, when the palace lanterns flickered and all had fallen asleep, she would lay on her raffia mat, palm pressed over her barren stomach. She whispered to the gods, to Ayla the Earth Mother, to Chukwu the Creator, to her late mother, whose spirit she still felt near. "Am I a woman if I cannot give him a child? Have I offended the sky? Where is the ear of the gods?" Her tears never reached her voice. She was a queen, and queens do not weep where the world can see. But she broke only when alone. One moonless night, as thunder rolled in the distant hills, she heard the palace maidens whispering outside her chamber. "Will the king take another wife? They say the elders are searching already." The queen, she smiles, but her heart, Ehya. Adana closed her eyes, not in anger, not in envy, but in fear, for she knew one truth deeper than pain. A barren woman does not fear another woman. She fears being forgotten. And that fear would soon drive her into the greatest mistake of her life. The palace awoke to the smell of burning incense and distant flute songs, but Queen Adana felt none of its beauty. Days had passed since the Council of Elders had pressed the king to take another wife, and though King Umueze resisted, their words had settled like dust upon every corridor. The palace maidens whispered it first. The guards murmured it next. Soon, even the market women spoke of it as they pounded fufu. A king without a son is a river without fish. Queen Adana carried these whispers like thorns under her wrapper. She ate less, slept rarely, spoke only when spoken to, but inside her mind, thoughts screamed louder than any war drum. She watched her husband at night, how he stared into nothing, how he sighed when he thought she slept. She saw it, the disappointment he tried to bury. Not disappointment in her, but disappointment in fate. She loved him. That was the curse. Had he been cruel, her heart would have hardened. But King Umueze was a man of rare kindness. He called her Nkem, my own. And though the world wanted him to turn away, he stayed beside her. Yet love does not stop tradition. Love does not silence elders. The weight of duty pressed on him, and the fear of losing him pressed on her. One evening, as dusk bled into purple, Adana entered his chamber. The king sat alone, polishing his ivory bracelet, an heirloom passed from father to son, a bracelet no son had yet claimed. She knelt quietly beside him. "Umueze," she called softly. He turned, surprised by the crack in her voice. She never trembled. She never cried. She swallowed, her neck stiff. "I know what the elders say." "Forget their words," he said, brushing her hand. "You are my wife. You are enough." "No," she whispered, eyes glistening. "I am not enough. Not for the throne. Not for the ancestors." She reached for his hand, gripped it with both of hers. Her voice trembled like a leaf in harmattan. "If another woman must enter this palace, let it be my blood, my sister, not a stranger." The king froze. Silence. "Adana, do you know what you are saying?" She nodded slowly, tears burning but refusing to fall. "I would rather live with her than die watching another claim your heart?" "Never," his voice thundered. "I will not marry your sister. I will not share myself." "You will," she insisted, voice now breaking. "You must. The throne demands an heir. The elders will not rest. I beg you. If another must come, let it be one I can still call sister. Let me choose my own rival." The king rose to his feet, angry. "Stop this madness. I will not let your sorrow make a slave of your soul." But she remained kneeling, not pleading, declaring fate. "Let me call Neca." A long silence fell between them, thick, heavy, irreversible. The king turned away, shoulders trembling with the battle between love and duty. He loved Adana, but he also loved his kingdom, and a kingdom must not die with its king. That night, as Adana lay awake, her mind drifted to Neca. Her younger sister, beautiful, wild-hearted, sharp-tongued, Neca, who once said, "I was born to be more than a farmer's wife." A strange shiver crawled through Adana's spine, but she ignored it, for she believed blood would remain loyal. She believed sisterhood would replace hatred. She believed love could control fate. She did not know. She had just opened the gates of her own undoing. The first cock had not crowed when Queen Adana's message reached her father's compound in Umuokpara village. It was delivered with cola and palm wine, an invitation from the palace sealed with the royal emblem. Neca, her younger sister, read the letter thrice, her lips slowly curling into a satisfied smile. "Palace," she murmured. "Royal carriage." Her eyes glistened. not with gratitude, but with ambition. Neca was everything Adana was not. Where Adana was gentle, Neca was fierce. Where Adana was soft-spoken, Neca's words cut like a blade. She had once told Adana during a petty quarrel in childhood, "You will marry a king, and I will be greater than you." No one took it seriously then, but fate had a strange way of folding prophecies into reality. Queen Adana stood at the palace gates as the royal carriage approached. Her heart pounded, not with joy, not with pride, but with a silent plea to the gods. She hoped. She prayed. Let this be the answer, not the beginning of sorrow. The gates opened. Neca stepped down, wrapped in a flowing silk wrapper gifted by Adana in their youthful days. But her posture, her gaze, her chin lifted with supreme confidence, made it seem as though she had always belonged to palaces. "Big sister," she smiled, embracing Adana. Her embrace was warm, too warm. Adana held her tightly, tears finally touching her eyes. "Neca, my own blood." But unseen by Adana, Neca's eyes rose to the grand palace towers. She was not here as a guest. She was entering as a queen. King Umueze entered the royal hall to receive her. He expected shyness, humility, maidenly respect. Instead, Neca met his gaze directly. Bold, unflinching. "Your Majesty," she said with a slightly lowered head, yet her eyes remained fixed on his. "My sister speaks highly of you, as a king who listens to the cry of his people." It was not praise. It was a test. The king frowned slightly, not in anger, but curiosity. This woman did not tremble. She carried herself like one born to sit on a throne. Adana mistook the tension for unfamiliarity. "She is nervous," she whispered, but the king shook his head. "No, she is not nervous." The palace maids buzzed like bees that night. "She is beautiful like Adana, but something in her eyes. I fear it. Did you see how she looked at the king? Bold like a lioness. She walks as though she already owns the royal chambers." Adana ignored them. She believed in blood ties. She believed a sister could never become a rival. Days passed. The king delayed. Tradition demanded acceptance or rejection. He delayed, hoping Adana would retract her request, but she did not. One evening, Adana knelt before him again. She placed his hand gently on her head. "If fate has denied me a child," she whispered, "let my sister give you one. Let my blood carry your legacy." The king's heart twisted, but faced with love and duty, he surrendered. "So be it," he said quietly. "I will take your sister as my second wife." The palace drums roared, elders poured libations, kolanoots were broken. Neca, adorned in coral beads and rich raffia skirts, smiled like a goddess. Not once did she thank Adana. She only said, "I was born for greatness." As the rituals ended, the king glanced only once at Adana, her eyes steady, her smile forced. She had given her greatest sacrifice. She believed she had protected her throne. But she had only opened the door for the serpent to enter. From the moment the wedding drums ceased, Oguba Palace was never the same. What once flowed like a calm river beneath Queen Adana's gentle rule now churned with unseen currents. The people welcomed Neca at first. After all, she was the queen's own sister. But it did not take long for tongues to change their tune. For inside, Neca's smile lived a storm. The morning after her marriage, Neca refused to join the elders' customary greeting. It was tradition. Every new wife must greet the council at dawn, offering cola and words of respect. Instead, she remained in her chamber and sent a maid. Elder Mwakanwa, offended, rose with his staff. Is she queen or goddess, he spat, that she cannot bow to those who held the throne before her birth? When told, Nneka only laughed. I married a king, not the council. If they want greetings, let them come to me. Weeks passed, and Nneka's pride bloomed like poison ivy. She arrived at the marketplace with beads jangling, head raised as though the earth itself should move for her feet. Women rushed to greet her. May the gods bless your womb, Lolo, one said kindly. Nneka smirked. They already have. Unlike some. Her eyes lingered on a barren woman selling okra. The woman lowered her eyes in shame. Do not worry, Neca added loudly. When I give the king his son, I will hold feasts for all barren women. Perhaps my joy will be enough for 2 wombs. Laughter followed, bitter, cruel. Queen Adana heard of it. Her heart clenched. Within the palace, Nneka changed more than just her clothing. She replaced servants without reason. She wore coral crowns meant only for the senior queen. She sat, boldly, on the left side of the throne, a place reserved for the mother of the heir. When Adana gently advised, Sister, be careful. There are customs. Neca cut her off sharply. Customs are made to be broken. And tell me, sister, who has obeyed tradition more than you? Yet what has it given you? Adana fell silent. Neca moved through the palace halls like a woman carrying prophecy. Each time she passed Queen Adana, she placed a hand on her stomach, even when it was flat, and smiled knowingly at the guards. I will give Oguba a prince, she would say. Then we shall see who truly wears the crown in this palace. Women began to divide. Some clung to Adana, the queen of peace. Others flocked to Neca, the queen of confidence. The palace had split, not by sword, but by womb. Through it all, Queen Adana remained silent. She continued supervising the kitchens, visiting the sick, feeding orphaned children. She smiled when women greeted her, even when she heard them whisper. A kind queen, but empty-handed. Neca will give us our heir. At night the king sat beside Adana. Speak to me, he begged. But she only shook her head. How does a woman complain about the storm she herself invited? She whispered one thing only, to the gods. Chukwu keke, if I must lose everything, let me lose without hate. Let me not turn against my own blood. But even the gods were silent, for in the belly of envy, something was already growing. Something darker than rivalry. Something that would one day seek death. Joy can be a blade. In the wrong hands, it cuts deeper than sorrow. It began with a song. A morning song from the palace maidens, soft at first, then swelling through the corridors like a trumpet of victory. Queen Adana, rising from her bed of woven raffia, heard the ululation before she heard the news. Lolo Nneka, the womb of the kingdom has opened. The palace erupted like a marketplace at dusk. Drums, laughter, even the gong bearer beat twice. Once for the king's honour, once for the future heir. Neca was with child. The courtyard flooded with dancers. Women threw white chalk in the air. Men raised their fists. Some fell to their knees, praising the gods. It is done, the ancestors have answered. Our future prince is coming. Prince. Already they called it prince. Queen Adana stood at the balcony, her fingers stiff on the railing. She forced a smile as the people danced, for the palace, for the king, for the womb that was not hers. Neca walked into the courtyard. Not like a pregnant woman, but like a conqueror returning from war. Her palm rested proudly on her still, flat stomach. Women knelt to greet her. Men hailed her. Maids bowed so low their foreheads brushed the earth. And when she approached Queen Adana, she paused, expecting the older sister to celebrate her. Adana smiled gently. "I am happy for you." Neca tilted her head. "I know. After all, not every tree can bear fruit." She brushed her wrapper. "But some trees can at least provide shade." Adana felt it, the sting, the dagger wrapped in a sister's tongue. Yet she only whispered, "May the gods bless this child." Neca raised a brow. "Child?" she scoffed. "No, this is no child. This is legacy." As moons passed, Neca's belly grew, and so did her cruelty.